I'm Kevin Theos. I'm the president of the USPTA Southern Division. Lane Evans is a national USPTA board member and the president of Lane Evans Tennis and Golf Performance located in Norman, Oklahoma. He's an elite professional and soon to be master professional, we believe, expect. And he holds numerous fitness certifications at the highest level. Lane, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Kevin. Thanks for having me. Great to be here back with my Southern gang.
Absolutely. Now, I know that you began developing your expertise in fitness in earnest about 8 years ago. What prompted you to explore this niche area?
Well, it's an interesting and long story, much longer than our time allotment will allow. But when I first went to Champion Hills Club, and I was there in Hendersonville, North Carolina, for about 11 years, I was working with primarily a senior demographic. And when I say that, I mean 65 on the low end, over 90 on the high end. I had very few tennis players, less than a half dozen. So I cooked up this idea that if I could train these people to be able to play tennis, that it would benefit my tennis program. So I basically started at the bottom, started with nothing, no players, took an old beat up weight room and converted it into a nicer place and made it more appealing for the members and created some programming. And they started coming in droves. Long story short, after my 11-year run there, I left in 2019, over 125 players, 4 separate remodels of our fitness center.
Okay. So, I mean, what was it that jumped out at you that there was a need for this?
The inability of my club members to participate in tennis. They were just physically inactive. They were not fit people. And I had to create them somehow, other than to go out and just try to get memberships in a very expensive club. It was easier just to build from within.
Okay, and then how did you, I guess you took some fitness certifications to begin with, and then how did you build this up? Was it overnight, or how did that work?
No. It took quite a bit of time. I actually started developing the idea with our club general manager at the time, and they were looking for alternative programming ideas and things like that. He kind of floated the idea at me, and I said, well, I've been a club manager for years and I've managed fitness people, but I've never actually done it myself. So, it might be kind of interesting to try it. So I started off with the International Sports Sciences Association as a certified fitness trainer. And once I got my legs into that and really started moving through that and got that certification, then I went on to senior fitness because, again, most of my demographic was a senior population. Then I went on to exercise therapy because a lot of my seniors were the reason they weren't inactive was because they had a lot of pre-existing conditions, injuries, shoulders, knees, backs, you name it. They were suffering from it, and that had hampered their physicality in an effort to play sports. So from there, I went to strength and conditioning. I've since gone into transformation or behavior modification. And I will finish up with sports nutrition as a master trainer.
Fantastic. So you have quite a number of areas that you can work in the fitness area or fitness realm. What do you like most about being in the fitness area or being able to having carved something out for yourself in that?
Well, I think it always gives me an avenue, and I didn't mention, Kevin, before, not to go back there, but I also train golfers, and that was one big important part I left out. I came from primarily a golf club, and so I had to convert golfers into tennis players as well. So that was another built-in population that I had to go after. But at no time did I ever think that it wasn't possible to do that. Training is pretty much training. And so, once I could condition athletes up to a point where they were comfortable stepping outside their normal recreation activities and try something new, it was great. So, being able to work one-on-one with people, I worked with groups, I worked with, individuals, men, women, older, younger, fitter, not so fit, rehabbed a ton of injuries, and it just seemed to work out, and it's still going strong today.
Well, fantastic. It sounds like, yeah, you've really built it up over time, over the last 8 years or so.
It took a lot of time.
What's the most difficult thing about working in this area?
Well, and I'm the last person on earth that would ever say this, but you have to be extremely patient, especially if you're working with a senior population. They're not going to move as fast. They're not going to think as fast. They're just not going to do everything that, if you're a tennis pro working with high performance juniors or high performance players, this probably isn't going to be the direction for you. I've always considered myself more of a grassroots type tennis professional. And so I like building players literally from the ground up. And so being able to build their bodies and then incorporate that into building their tennis games was always appealing to me. I mean, that to me was actually fun.
So it sounds like you like seeing the people develop over time.
Yeah, it's rewarding, and ironically, some of the progresses I made with some of my senior players, and I've got some senior golfers right now that I'm working with, and senior tennis players. Their progress has been more substantial and more easy to recognize than a lot of the higher performance juniors I've worked with. I don't know that they really appreciate the physicality and the fitness that goes into being really, really proficient at a sport. Some do, most don't. It's still kind of I know that, speaking from experience with our high school players out here, which I am a high school coach, a lot of them are just hitting gigglers. They play tennis when the season comes up, and then they don't pick up a racket again for the rest of the year. And then the ones that are the more serious, that play tournaments, they do train, and they train hard, and they see the value in it. It's a little bit more of a hard sell with some of them, but they do see the value in it.
Okay. Now, let's say that a pro is teaching a lot of lessons, and they're thinking about, getting into this area, and they actually do one or more certifications in fitness, so they get a working knowledge. I mean, what does the business model look like getting started?
Well, again, each individual situation is going to be different. When I was at Champion Hills, I was a one-man show. I joke with people that I would train, then I would cross across the parking lot, which one connected to the other, and I would change shoes. I'd stop at my car, change shoes, go on the clay courts, teach some lessons there, then go back, change shoes again, go back in the gym, and do that. So it's again, as I said earlier, it's a business model that really requires a great deal of discipline and patience. If you're in a situation where you've got a big tennis population and you want to add fitness to your tennis resume, as many of you have seen the presentation I've done, you're going to need help. You may want to have some of your assistants get involved in it. Some might. I mean, it's kind of bulletproof if you're in a place where you have seasons, for example. I get calls from all over the country from tennis pros who are in winter situations that maybe don't have indoor courts or are looking for alternative ways to make revenue, to generate revenue. And this is one of the directions I point them in. Start slow, get your feet under you with some basic certification, such as the Certified Fitness Trainer certification, and then build from there. You're going to have to market your product out to your club members. Word of mouth is going to be your almost best friend. You're going to have to step carefully through this too, because one injured client can tell 5, and those will tell 15 or 20, and then you're out of business. So you have to be really, really careful how you manage your fitness career as you move forward. And I started slow and kind of simple, and then built into more complex. And then, of course, went into golf fitness with TPI and Super Speed Golf. And that's become another area of my fitness resume that has proven to be very beneficial.
Well, one thing that occurs to me is that there's always a difference between the real world and doing something and then learning something in a class. So, for example, if someone does a certification, but they really haven't trained anyone yet. They've taught tennis, but they haven't done any kind of personal training.
Right.
I mean, would you recommend that somebody start slowly, offer discounts, that kind of thing, and only begin with a couple of clients and then try to get their kind of experience down a little bit before expanding?
You know, it's funny. It's a great question. And it's kind of funny that you bring that up. That's exactly how my fitness business started. I think, you know, it's funny. Consumers will go into a store or go to a service provider, and they will pay an astronomical amount of money for something they really don't understand. But when it came to fitness, I found that clients would come in, I would sit down with them, I would interview them. At the same time, they're interviewing me. They're trying to find out how much information I really have and know and how much I can help them. And we start with some very basic, once we get that conversation out of the way, you know, we start with some very basic programs. We set small individual goals, and then we try to work our way through those goals. And those small goals become bigger goals and bigger targets. And once they see the value in that, then it kind of takes care of itself. But the certified fitness trainer certification, no matter where you go, if you go to ISAR, or you go to NASM or ACE or AFAA, any of those accredited bodies, it is going to be a tough first step. You're not going to be able to just, you know, pay a few dollars, do a little online work, get your certification and walk out there and make it happen. The certification itself is very difficult. It can be done in, you know, it can be done in 4 to 6 months, probably easily. But you're going to have to understand what it is you're doing. And part of that certification does walk you through the processes of working with clients, working with different areas of clientele, seniors, women, men, juniors, although there's a whole another protocol for training juniors. But yeah, you'll have to do your due diligence. But once you're through that, it all begins to make sense. And then after you're able to assess clients, you'll be able to kind of pave your own path.
Okay. Lane, so we have a little less than a minute. I mean, do you have
Sure.
anything else that you'd like to share?
No, I mean, it's been a great alternative for me. Again, I was in a place that didn't have indoor courts. I had a winter climate. And so I really needed something, you know, solid to do in the winter months. And this turned out to be greater than I could have ever imagined. Like I said, the club bought in, they redid my fitness center 4 times while I was there. It's just because we didn't build it big enough. And so they now have a fully operating fitness center and a tennis program that's thriving. And so I left my mark there, and that's all I really wanted to do. So it's great.
All right. Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Lane. And I'm sure some folks will have some questions as we get toward the end of this today.
Great. Thank you for having me,
All right.
Kevin.
Absolutely.